chapter review, Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter 57. Yo, people, welcome. Sanjae Uchiha here. So welcome back to the channel where obviously, as you can tell, we'll be talking about Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter 57. Now, of course, be sure to rate, comment, subscribe. If you haven't checked out my review on Boruto Manga chapter 43, then be sure to check that out. I'm kind of just doing both of them one time. Even though I literally just came home from work, but you don't know, it said I have to get out this content, honestly. But anyway, chapter 57, the battle against the forces of Moro on Earth continues, and the eventual return of Goku in this chapter. Now let's get right into it. Now we continue the chapter where we essentially left off last chapter, where we have Android 17 and Android 18 going up against 7-3 and the forces of Moro. And honestly, this chapter, first impressions coming off it, I thought it was actually decent. I've got some of my expectations down pat, especially if you've seen my expectations video. One of the things I was kind of expecting is Goku or Vegeta wouldn't actually show up in the chapter, or if they did, they wouldn't show up towards the end. And by the end of this chapter, we have Goku himself showing up. Now, it focused more so on the rest of the Z fighters, the rest of the cast fighting against Moro and showcasing their skills, especially Krillin and Master Roshi. There was a heavy focus on them for this chapter. We got more of Tien and Chaozu and a bit more, not so much Yamcha. We got a bit of him, but I actually wanted to see more. But all in all, I thought it was a decent chapter. We heavily focus on the Z fighters, as I said. Now we have Krillin going up against that guy. Honestly, Moro's forces, apart from 7-3 and Saganbo, yeah, I haven't really memorized the rest of their names, but we have Krillin going up against that one big fat guy. Well, I wouldn't say fat, but he kind of seems similar to Botamo, I suppose. And honestly, I love the fact that the rest of the Z cast continue to get their share of the spotlight in this chapter. We have Krillin going in using techniques such as the after image, the destructo disc, and just utilizing these old techniques from like early Dragon Ball, which probably got 1 and 2 appearances, 1 and 2 shines throughout Z, and to a degree in the Tournament of Power, but continuing to make them relevant and useful in the choreography of the fights. I really and truly enjoyed that aspect of it with Krillin's fight. Now we have Master Roshi going up against the 3 ladies that she started off with last chapter. We didn't get a lot of Roshi last chapter, but we did get more of him this chapter. And what I found interesting is that we kind of progress into Krillin making reference to the fight that Roshi had with Jiren in the manga, where he kind of did something similar to Ultra Instinct. And he mentions that he can't really do that because his mind isn't clear, obviously because he's thinking about perverted things with the ladies that he's fighting. So yeah, he mentions that, but eventually the girls fuse and starts cornering them. We have Tien and Chaozu going up against the metal man of Universe 7. He's similar to, well, it's the same race as Vegeta from Universe 6. And we have Chaozu actually being of use in this chapter. Chaozu hasn't had the biggest track record of getting the spotlight, but seeing him and Tien trying their best to actually overcome this enemy, it was a nice touch, kind of refreshing, if I'm not gonna lie. And that's a whole theme, well, not theme, but the whole feeling I think this chapter evokes for the most part, getting to see the rest of the Z cast actually being useful, but not to the degree of Resurrection F, in the sense that I think Resurrection F was like, let's just throw them in. They could have ended the fight anytime, but I think in this case they're going up against more noteworthy opponents, so it kind of feels like their presence there is actually worth something, if you get what I mean. So for that, it actually adds a plus to the chapter. So we eventually have Chaozu insulting Vegeta because he remembers from the Universe 6 tournament that they're weak to insults for some reason. I mean, it's stupid. Yeah. We have Yamcha going up against one of the other commanders in Moro's army that's kind of close to Saganbo, and he's having some trouble, but he's eventually backed up by Tien and Chaozu. But back on the main front here, where we have 17, 18, Gohan, Piccolo, Jaco. They're going up against 7-3 and the other guy there, the kind of hedgehog looking guy. Basically 17 is going in and really just demolishing them. The androids are really going in. Of course, we did establish last chapter that they can't 7-3 can't use Moro's abilities on 17 and 18 because of the fact that they don't have like that natural type of ki. They're basically cyborgs, androids, whatever, you get the point. And he's basically demolishing them. We got some interesting choreography. I especially love the panel where we see Android 70 basically just using 2 energy blasts and use it to kind of like boost himself and kind of just drop kick 7-3. So that was pretty cool. But I think the meat of the match is when Moro actually finally makes his move to join the fight. Yo, this chapter kind of establishes that Moro has grown like ridiculously powerful, because Moro basically decides that he's not going to destroy Earth in one go because of it's such a rare occurrence of like life energy of Genki that he's just gonna just take his time to enjoy it. So he eventually just bestows Saganbo like some of his energy, just some, and he's apparently even more powerful than Gohan, 17, Piccolo, everybody. So that kind of established that Moro has grown ridiculously powerful. And as the chapter goes on, we kind of get to see that the fight kind of starts turning in the favor of Moro and his forces. And we eventually get to almost at the end of the chapter, we see that Goku is still traveling through space. He can faintly sense what's going on Earth, and he like we have this scene of Krillin, you know, making one last ditch effort to actually summon Goku, which is pretty similar to what they did in Resurrection F for the most part. Yeah, it's kind of pretty straight on, except that Krillin's the only one doing it this time. And eventually, once the girls that Roshi was fighting fused and kind of cornered them, she was about to finish them. Goku comes in at the last minute, and of course he makes a statement that he's sorry for always coming in at the last minute, and that's where the chapter ends for the most part. Now, them kind of doing that repeat of Resurrection F, honestly, it's not that big of a problem for me, honestly. I mean, it's what works. I mean, we're making we have the characters that essentially just making use of, you know, mechanics that are already been established. They know that Goku's on his way more than likely, so if he raises his power to kind of on the off chance to just alert Goku, Goku can use that. So it's not that big of a deal when you think about it. No, I know a lot of persons probably were expecting Gohan to do more in this chapter, but the circumstances just won't allow it, at least not for this section of the arc. He kind of has retired himself to just waiting on Goku and Vegeta again, and you can't really fight that. The fact that Moro's abilities just, Gohan doesn't really have anything in his repertoire to combat Moro and his abilities, and Moro himself anyway has grown to like a ridiculous amount of strength. It's not like before where I could say, okay, it's just his magic that kind of gives him the edge. He's strong physically, but still not blue level. But I can't say that anymore. Like, he's ridiculously powerful. You gotta remember, he's been absorbing planets for the longest while. How long has it been? A month, 2 months? So yeah. So yeah, it only makes sense why he's this powerful, and him just grants Sagambo some of his energy makes sense. But it kind of makes you wonder or think that Goku and Vegeta would have to have gotten astronomically more powerful than the rest of the cast, and it kind of brings back the problem or the situation where will it continue to remain the Goku and Vegeta show with the difference in power that we now are well that we're expecting to once again just widen. So that's the thing, cause for concern. But it depends on execution, because I've been loving the use of the rest of the Z Fighter and the rest of the cast in these last few chapters. So it just depends on the execution at the end of the day. Anyway, as I said, expectations wise, we did get Goku at the end of this chapter, but I think the big thing the people are looking at for this chapter is the fact that Vegeta hasn't shown yet, and they made Goku come first. So makes me wonder, is Toyotaro actually setting things up to allow Vegeta to take the win for this chapter? That's the thing. I think for me personally, I would love to see Vegeta take the win, especially since he has gone against, I wouldn't say, well, yeah, he's gone against what his character would usually do in terms of learning from somebody. Well, in the last few years, he's been learning from Whis, so I mean, it's kind of continuing the I wouldn't say character growths. Well, it's continuing the showcase of the growth that his characters had over the last few years in Super and everything that's led up to this point for his character. The fact that he even, learned from Whis, willing to have a teacher, and the fact that he continues to seek other teachers to, combat the current situation that he can't overcome with his current resources, then yeah, I think it's still a good look at the end of the day. So I wouldn't mind if Goku sets up the situation and Vegeta comes in for the win for this chapter. So yeah, so for the most part, I'm expecting for chapter 58 to be a very Goku centric chapter, or at least Goku assisting the Z Fighters clean things up and then eventually coming face to face with Moro, and then probably for a portion of it we can get Vegeta. I didn't get the expectation I had for Vegeta for this chapter. I think we're gonna get some of that next chapter to see Vegeta finalize his training. So yeah, but still I actually don't expect him to show up next chapter, probably by 59. So yeah, this arc might be longer than I initially expected. I was kind of predicting that it would end by June, but I don't think that's going to be the case based on how things are looking. But all in all, I thought it was a decent chapter. I don't really have much complaints. I really love the showcase and use of the Z Fighters. At the end of the day, I think that's like the main call for me, just the use of all these characters that didn't get much shine in the earlier portions of Super, and the fact that, well, the plot is moving along. Goku's here, so the chapter actually helped to move the whole fight along. So it's just patience at the end of the day. But all in all, that's all I have for this one, people. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about my review. Of course, don't know, be sure to check out the review on Boruto chapter 43, because yo, that was hype. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh.